Hi guys, welcome to our book club. Today we start a new reading adventure in this experts level, this time with a very difficult book. Probably not just because of vocabulary, but because all the information that is involved. This time it's a book called Inside. The title is a little bit long, so let me read. It says, "Why we are not as self-aware as we think, and how seeing ourselves clearly help us succeed at work and in life." So it's a very long title, but well, Inside. And this is a book that I already read in Spanish, but during the conversation sessions, I just realized that I really wanted to share it because it really has a lot of helpful and useful information nowadays. I will say that probably if you know how to use the information here, you may change something important in your life. So, well, this time as I commented to you, I will read it with you in English. So be aware that this is a difficult reading, not just because of vocabulary, the topic, but also because this is the very first time that we are reading a very long book. It's not very long. I will say that it's just, like normal size. But it has almost 400 pages. Most of them are just extra information, but we will read around 300 and something. So be aware that this time it will be a very, very, very important reading challenge. So, as I was commenting to you, we will read this book. The author is an organizational psychologist. She helps to organize and also to improve some areas in business. And well, she has wrote some books. This time she wrote a book about how we think and how improving how we see ourselves and how other people see us, and at the same time we find the balance with our environment and how we affect the environment as well. We will improve our life in so many fields. So that's so far the book. The book has 10 chapters, so we will read 2 chapters per session. This video will cover the first 2 chapters. So without anything else to say, let's start. Welcome back, guys. As I told you, today we start a new reading adventure. So I am already sharing my screen. You have the cover of the book. The cover of the book is very simple, and the title is not as simple as it looks like. So it is Inside, but the complete title is Why We Are Not Self-Aware as We Think, and How Seeing Ourselves Clearly Help Us Succeed at Work and in Life. And as the title says, the author will help us to know ourselves a little bit more, and as a consequence, she says that that will change our work and life because we change our environment somehow. So in Spanish, the title it may be a little bit different. It is called Intuition, but intuition is not exactly the same as insight. So insight means hacia adentro. So just be aware that probably it is not the same word is not exactly a good translation because they wanted, like to involve a little bit the meaning of the book with this title. So let's continue then. We have the first page, we have the metadata, we have the content, and as I told you, this book has 10 chapters, so we will cover today in this video number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is the introduction, and number 2 it is just part of the first part of the book, and it is called The Anatomy of Self-Awareness, the 7 Pillars of Insight. So self-awareness, and the same in the title, it says self-aware. You will see the same word all the time. So what is it? So self-aware is just to know yourself. So that will be translated as autoconciencia. And insight, like hacia adentro. So if you want to call it intuition, it's up to you. So as I told you, it has 10 chapters. So those are for the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth session. And this is very important, guys, because we have here the appendices. The appendices are some extra questions, extra information that the author gave us in order to know ourselves a little bit more. So, for example, here, what are our values? So she helped us to probably identify them by giving us a list and also through some questions. The same thing with aspirations, the same thing with ideal environment, strengths and weaknesses, etc., etc. So they are at the end of the book. And well, this is the extra exercise you can do by yourself in order to have more information about you. So, as I told you, we have the dedication next to the content, and then we have a quote that it says, sorry, it is most perilous to be a speaker of truth. Sometimes one must choose to be silent or be silenced. But if a truth cannot be spoken, it must at least be known. Even if you dare not speak truth to others, never lie to yourself. And this is a very, very important phrase because it just opens your mind to a lot of possibilities. Just think about how many times you have lied to yourself because everybody does the same thing. And probably you are against that, but since everybody does it, so you say like, well, adapt or die. So he says, well, this guy, Francis Hardin, that it is sometimes even harder to be a speaker of truth, to tell the truth, because some people just prefer to not say anything in order not to have problems or to be the focus of everybody's the focus of everybody's attention. So, well, it says don't lie to yourself. So keep that in mind, guys. So we just opened the book with a very powerful quote, and later on we have just chapter number 1. So it says the meta skill of the 21st century. What is a meta skill? First of all, so a meta skill, it will be like this skill, this new um, resource, this new like trigger, this new something that will help you, like jump to something else. Probably if you are looking for purposes in your career, if you're looking for some goals in your life, goals, this, and that, you have to have this meta skill, this extra that will help you to achieve whatever you want. So, the author decides to tell us a lot of stories, and with those stories, she is illustrating some facts that she wants us to understand. So be aware that sometimes she jumps between stories, and also she has some breaks in the story. So we start with this lieutenant story, and it finishes almost at the end of the chapter. So be aware that it will be full of facts. So I hope you have your pen and paper ready because it will be also a lot of vocabulary. So we start with this lieutenant that he is a newbie in the military, in the like being a soldier. But at the end of the day, he was the only one who could do the action because there was nobody else to do this. So they have to face a battle, and during the battle, this unexpert lieutenant, like this soldier, he did whatever he could. Fortunately, he won. He won because like they lost some bullets, they lost some people, and it wasn't really like a nice, excellent victory. It was decent. So well, like this lieutenant, he felt proud of him because he won. He didn't have experience. He won the first battle, and he said like, I'm a pro. So when it was the time for the second battle, he didn't plan it so well. He was doing whatever he wanted. Nobody told him anything like, hey, you're grown. Like, I think you probably need to do something different. Nobody told him anything. So he did what he wanted. Unfortunately, this time, everything played against him. The weather, the location, like the other team, even his own soldiers. So at the end, the author mentions that he was very young. He was, like 22 years old rookie. Rookie means the newbie. You don't have experience, you are new in something. And well, like the author is describing the battle. The middle, it is, like the Prado, like an open space, and swamp. Well, Shrek used to live in a swamp. So, as I was telling you, like this second battle, he didn't do it well. He lost some soldiers, and everybody knew that it wasn't a good location, anything. So he was humiliated by his own soldiers because they didn't act as he wanted, and also by the other team, like the other team. So this guy was like, come on, come on. And the author asked herself like, why this guy didn't like knew himself before? Why he throws so much on him that he made that mistake? So she said that sometimes we are not aware of ourselves, and also we are not aware of our environment. So as a consequence, we have a lot of circumstances where we made a lot of mistakes. We have to learn, it's part of life, but sometimes it is, like a process that repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. So you want to be out of that. So, well, the author is asking herself why this guy didn't, realize that before. And she says that, well, it is, like difficult. But this guy did. I don't know if I am spoiling you because I told you that, like the story is a little bit, like jumping. But, well, he was a very important figure in American history. So, well, the author is asking herself, like, why he wasn't self aware. And she just, like, said, like, okay, as human beings, we are able to change our mind, we are able to change something inside of us, and we can increase, we can improve something, we can be better at something because we did those changes. So here it just, like giving us some quotes. This is very interesting. Any ape can reach for a banana, but only humans can reach for the stars. Apes live, contend, breathe, and die in forests. End of story. Humans grind, investigate, and quest. We splice genes, split atoms, launch rockets. We peer upward and delve deeply into the digits of pi. Perhaps more remarkably of all, we gaze inward, piecing together the puzzle for our own unique and marvelous brain. This truly is the greatest mystery of all. So, for example, vocabulary, guys, we have peer. Peer, it will be just, like peer. Upward, like upward. Let me just. Human grind, we peer upward. Yeah, like we look at the sky, we look at the space, and delve deeply into the digits of pi. Yeah, like we can go up and we can go down. We can go to the macro and we can go into the micro. So that's why it says digits of pi. Like it is a very, very small number that it can goes maybe to the infinite. So it says, perhaps more remarkably of all, we gaze, remember, we look with interest. inward in size, piecing pieces together the puzzle, like Armand, puzzle of our unique and marvelous brain. This truly is the greatest mystery of all. So we are different from animals because we think. And well, it's explaining a little bit more about that. And then we have, like she's like, oh, we're different because of this, because of this, because of this. And at the end is like, whatever, we are different, we are not animals. And she says that self-awareness is the meta skill of the 20th century because knowing yourself, it can change everything. And well, we have more. She says that sometimes it is easier not to be aware of yourself. It is better to, like to choose self delusion. That self delusion is just, like not thinking, just going with the flow, not asking the right questions, just to be like comfortable with what you do in your life and not changing it. So she mentions that emotional intelligence, it's a very very famous book that I remember reading. I remember I read it probably during college or high school, and it's talking that, like how people react to some situations that sometimes we really don't think about it, we just react. And we should probably change the perspective of it, and instead of reacting, just thinking and intelligently deciding how to react, how to resolve a circumstance or behave in a situation. So we have here that this guy, the author says like, oh, this guy, he's awesome because he interviewed a lot of people, like a lot of people, but he made a mistake because he based all his like all his research on the people he asked. And he didn't ask with some rules or anything. He just asked like, hey, do you think you are, hey, do you think you this? And obviously, if somebody asks you like, hey, uh how good are you? You will say, oh, I'm really really a good person. Oh, I am like a Nate. Oh, I am like this. So really never sorry, we never will judge ourselves like critically. We will say maybe a little bit more, or maybe a little bit this. So that's why the author says that the numbers, the results are probably not the best. So she says like, hey, we need to do something else, like we need to change that. And she started asking people, like people who were already people who were already success, like, hey, do you know yourself? Like, what did you do? Hey, do you think you know your environment? How did you know it? So at the end, the authors realized that people who naturally, like born like that, or it was naturally, they don't know. They didn't know what they did. So at the end, she said like, "Oh, this is useless. We have to find people who have like hard working, and finally, through experiences, they have found the balance between knowing themselves and how people see them. They found people and they call them unicorns." So she is telling us some stories about some unicorns. Oh, she's explaining here that what are the conditions of these people. Well, we have some highlights. Internal self work has to do with seeing yourself clearly. It is an inward understanding of your values, passions, aspirations, ideal, environment, patterns, reactions, and impact on others. So all this, it just half of, like whatever you need for knowing yourself. So And we have the external self awareness that is about understanding yourself from the outside in, that is knowing how other people see you. So we have no. Oh yeah, like sometimes they don't have relationship, like knowing yourself from inside, how other people see you. So sometimes they don't have a relationship. There's no relationship between them. So some people can really, really know themselves and say like, "Oh, I'm a good person," but really, like how other people see them is like that is, he's not a good person. He's not humble. Maybe he is this, maybe he's that. So that's why, like it is important to have a balance, because sometimes we believe we are something that probably we are not, and well, people seeing us in a way that we don't want to. So we need to find a balance, that there is, like concordance. So here we have that. And let's go to the story, to continue with the story with the coronel. So here it is that the results of the second battle. It says the battle lasted only a day and it happened the morning of July the 3rd. And it says, but the colonel would pay an astronomical price. Compared to just 30 enemy casualties, 100 of his men lay dead or wounded in the muddy, blood-soaked meadow. On July 4, the colonel surrendered, signing a document in a language he didn't speak. In so doing, he would inadvertently admit to perpetrating war crimes, and the fallout would dog him for months. So, for example, here in this expression, he says that, well, he lost the battle, as I told you, he lost the battle, and he was not just like, oh, you lost it, just, like, bye, see you. No, they humiliated in so many ways. So, one way was that he signed a document that he didn't speak, and it says, in so doing, because he did that, he would inadvertently admit to perpetrating, so paperwork crimes and fallout would dog him. That would dog him, it is like a way of saying perseguir. So would dog him for months. El fallo, the fallout, will dog him for months. So that is what he says. The author says, sorry. And, well, it says, in a final act of humiliation, as the colonel and his remaining men marched back home, they were helpless to stop the enemy from looting their baggage as they departed. So they lost. I mean, everybody like took their belongings, and well, there were a lot of people who passed away and were injured during this war. So we have that this guy was George Washington. And well, you know that George Washington is a very important figure for American history. And it says that, well, when this happened, he was just 20-year old, but he learned from his experience. So the author says that probably he was one of the first unicorns. That's why she mentioned him. And well, like she wanted to continue knowing how he did and why he did. So here's the king. Although he was only there are so many remarkables. Let me see, because I know what is happening, guys, but I told you there are so many facts that I don't know if all of them are important to mention in this moment. Who didn't start off? Criteria. Like I told you, they are looking for some unicorns, some people that they know themselves, inside and outside, and they did it through by themselves. So it says, after surveying thousands of people from all around the world, our team identified 50 individuals who fit our two criteria. One of my research assistants playfully but appropriately began to refer to them as self-awareness unicorns. So after all, they were rare, special creatures that most people didn't believe even existed. So that's why they call them like that. And we have, like these little dots, these little icons that show us that she will change the scenario. So we have that um, like the author begins with an experience, with an anecdote. So here we have that they are in Nigeria and 276 girls were kidnapped. So in the middle of the night, some people say like, "Hey, hey, we need to go. We need to go. Something's happening." And all the girls, all the athletes, just like woke up in the middle of the night, like, well, yeah, what this? And they were taken in bus. People didn't know where at the time, which is at the beginning. So, well, it's supposedly the girls thought it was the police and something happened, but at the end it was like an attack. It says that some girls never were found. So well, anyways, they like almost 300 girls were kidnapped, and it is talking about a girl. It is called Florence. Florence. So she is working in something else. And well, one day, but she is related with the news and like with the cameras and stuff. Well, it says, like it's describing Florence. So it says that Florence had always felt most comfortable at home with her nose in a book. She wasn't outgoing and had always intentionally stayed under the radar, both at work and in her community. And as someone who kept her head down to avoid being labeled self promoting or arrogant, Florence certainly wasn't someone you would expect to see on the front lines of the war on terror. But in a divine act of timing, she would recently had a profound insight that would alter the course of their entire life. If self-awareness is a journey, insights are the aha moments along the way. So she's trying to explain with this story that sometimes in our lives we are, for example, washing dishes, and suddenly you have this very intense thought that you say like, huh, like I can change this, and this will change, and this will, like do something else, do something different for me. So here is describing this character called Florence, and she is a worker that is very introvert, but because of these girls that were kidnapped, she felt that the way her company was doing the things wasn't the correct. So she said like, I don't want this. I want, like to help. So even though if she was an introvert girl, she says like, I am the only one who can do this. And she did. She started with a group for, like finding these girls. At the end, even though if the police and everybody knew where they were, nobody did something. So this group, the one Florence left, because it's boss, did something. So they put pressure on the government, and the government did something. Not all the girls returned to their houses. Like 100 and something didn't return, but like Florence did something for the community. So the author is telling us that even though if you are a shy person, even though if you never have thought about doing something for your community, sometimes you are under the right circumstances where you simply have to act. You have to do something because you are the only one who can do it. Nobody wants to do it, but you feel something has to change. You do something by yourself. So here the author is telling us that she changed because of this aha moment. And well, like That's how she was self-aware, like of her that she could do it, and also the environment that requires her to do something. And it says that self-awareness isn't a one and done exercise. So it's not like just with one thing that you change, or with one aha moment you will change your life. It just, like, probably practice. You need to have a lot. So it says that, like, as George Washington, Florence also suffered from this transformation. And here we have another jump. The author is changing again the story, and this time is telling us about Alan Mulally. I have read about this guy. He's the CEO from Ford, and what I know about Ford is that he changed the industry of cars. And well, probably you have seen the movie or you have heard about this guy, but it's a very important and like a very nice mentor for businessmen. So, well, the author is telling this guy, or well, is asking him about his story and more. And the reason why the guy accepted the interview, he says, it was because nobody has written a book like this. Nobody has written about how we think and how we can improve ourselves by doing something or by asking us some questions. So he says that is an excellent book and everybody should know about this. So far, that is what you have here. And well, it says, like the author, I grab insight for anyone who wants to make the leap from self blindness to self insight, and in turn reap the rewards of smarter choices, stronger relationships, and better life. So here we have turn reap, that it will be cosechar, like agarrar your recompensas, like you obtienes. And well, if you want to do it, you can jump from being blind to see yourself, and that can improve your life and your relationships. So it says, the author says that the goal of the book is just to help you to unblock yourself, to unblock, like your wave, to know yourself a little bit more, and with that you can change probably something minimal that with time will be big and big and big, like this, what is it called, like the snowball effect. So well, there you go. And what the author is telling us so far, what is about every chapter. So we have here that part one is about knowing the obstacles, the obstacles to like that, the obstacles that don't let us know ourselves. Yeah, that was it. I'm so sorry, guys. There are so many ideas because I said like, oh yeah, yeah, that happened here, that happened that. My bad. I have my notes, but either way, there are so many facts. So well, we continue with this part one, that is just the introduction. The second chapter, it's about the obstacles and also about the 7 pillars of insight. So the author is giving us 7 pillars of what she could consider important factors to consider when we want to know ourselves. And when we continue with number 3, that it says, now it will be obstacles from inside. Then chapter number 4, to society, obstacles in society. Chapter number 5, we are a little bit about how to improve some stuff and to do some introspection. In chapter number 6, it will be how to approach people, how to help people to improve in the right way, because sometimes we want to communicate some weaknesses or defects to other people and we don't know how. So well, and then it says that since well, from chapter 7 it will be the third part. So we have the biggest misconceptions, that it will be the wrong ideas that people have about external self awareness. So I think that this is important, an important chapter, especially nowadays. That sometimes, because of Instagram, because of Facebook, because of TikTok, social media in general, we have this need of approval, of people approval. So then we continue and we have that chapter 8. It just, like to hear feedback. So it will be to know yourself from inside, to know yourself from outside, the myths in society. Then we have how other people see us, but don't make mistakes, don't, like some problem misconceptions about that, and how to give feedback and how to hear feedback. So at the end, we have that it will be examinate good leaders in order just to have more examples, and we finish the book with important goals to survive. So you have all right now all this information. Then how I continue with this, with some tips. So that will be all the book, very very shortly. And then we have two kind of people: the people that usually get scared in a storm, so in the next storm they hide, or people that in the next storm they build my wills, will minds, miss wills. Oh, I forgot the word, so let me just find it. It is around here. It is not here. It has to be my wheels, wheel mines, wind miles. Oh, come on, I don't remember the word. Um, it's not here. It doesn't say here. This phrase. Back and tackle. Can you please? I'm pretty sure that we will see the word, guys. But what I meant, it is a molino de viento. So, well, probably we'll find the word, and I was like, oh, it was this. I'm so sorry. But well, anyways, well, let's just continue. Otherwise, I will take forever to finish this video. So we have the second part. We have the second chapter with the anatomy of self-awareness, the 7 pillars of insight. The beginning of knowledge is the discovery of something we don't understand. And we have here a story about Mayans. They said that Mayans, we have heard about Mayans. It was a very important society. They were very intelligent. They had a lot of information about a lot of things, a lot of subjects. And suddenly one day they disappear. And for a very long time they didn't know. Still, I think that, scientists and anthropologists and just, like people in general, they don't know why they disappear. But the author says that finally in 2005, like this guy called Jared Diamond, he proposed that Magians simply disappear. They disappear because of the circumstances, because of the weather, because of, like something natural, and not because of aliens or because of volcano eruption or a flood. No, it wasn't anything drastic. It would just simply that you start dying little by little. So the author wants to give us with this example that sometimes, like it is important to see things from other kind of perspectives. So here we have um let's see what happens here. It says the science of self-awareness has followed a remarkably similar pattern. Just as the Mayan ruins lay dormant for centuries before being discovered for archaeologists, the topic of self-awareness can be traced as far back as 200 before Christ. Yet it's only been subjected to scientific scrutiny in the last 40 years. So it was recently discovered. And Oh, here they mentioned that self-awareness sometimes it is related with Buddhism, with monks, with people who meditate, and that is right because like people who are involved in all these spiritual things, they connect somehow with their inner selves. Well, not somehow, through meditation, through like a silence, and through looking inside of you, so they reach this level where they know themselves. So yes, as you may see here, self-awareness is essential to the soul, and our awareness of ourselves is our very existence. So well, we continue here, and we have what, because we have a lot of examples later on. Well, finally we have a definition. So it says, so my research team and I spent more than a year identifying what made up this real world self awareness. We arrive at the following definition: self awareness is the will and the skill to understand yourself and how others see you. And for that, we have the seven pillars, because after all this research, they discovered that somehow, if everybody accomplished with these requirements, they can have this change. So again, we have examples, and we have the example with Benjamin Franklin. And you know that also Benjamin Franklin was an important figure for American history. So the author mentioned that when he was very young, he decided to make a list, and with this list he will have all the values and all the passions and everything that will um, not limit, but they will uh, I mean, these values, these passions will be aligned with the life he wants, or he wants to live, he wants to experience. So we have that he wasn't very Catholic, and he got upset a little bit with the church, because in the church one time he went, he discovered that the priest or the pastor wasn't really teaching people how to be good people. So he was like, no church. And well, we have that. So he wrote 13 principles, and the principle was temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality. We have industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, humility. So we have, like, for example, the chastity, that it would be good to have sex, but never because of your passions, like probably because you have to have kids, or just because it's good for your health. So that's it. For example, moderation, no extremes. Like, okay, you can have a little bit of everything, but moderation for everything. We have industry, lose no time. It says be always employed in something useful, cut off all unnecessary actions. So he all the time needed to be working, doing something. So we have here his principles, Benjamin Franklin's principles. And we have that in order to follow those principles, he used to make this kind of list. So we have here, like the principles, they were 13, and the days of the week. So every week, like he will just mark like, oh, I did this, I did this, I didn't do this today. So at the end, he wanted, like to cross all squares to have everything complete. So it says Franklin called them virtues, but one could also call them values, which is our first pillar of insight. So we have here that in order to know our principles, we can go to appendix letter A. So as I told you, we have appendixes. This is letter A. We have some questions, and then we have a list of probably some values that we own. So it's just about to identify which is yours. So we continue with the chapter, and when like this is the end of the story. So Benjamin Franklin, like show us about principles, our values. So then we have here another story that it says, this guy that is called Henry David, he says that if you love something, you can do it all the time because you will never be tired of it. So here we have the story of this guy. I don't remember his name. Oh, Jeff. He was an engineer. And then suddenly he changed into architecture because he started liking some buildings and he followed that passion. And then he became an architect and he started working in a company. But when he started working in the company, he realized that he wasn't so happy and that some projects were boring. So at the end, he asked himself if he wanted to continue with the same for all his life, and he said no. So he decided to quit his job and start his own business. And at the end, when he finally had a good business, he, in a conversation with an investor, the investor told him like, "Hey, but the important is not like achieving something; it's the trip." So that was like an aha moment for this guy, for Jeff, and he says like, "Oh, that's true." So the author is mentioning that he was the owner of website that about memes about cats or something, and he decided to simply not quit, but he decided to do something different. So he started traveling with his wife, and well, like he embraced his passions. He wasn't scared of changing his activities because he was following what he really really loved. And at the end, it's not like he was quitting one or the others, but he just link them in something new. So here we have like the question, what he did. This is the name of the site, and then we have, that is it. Oh yeah, that's the whole story we have here, like the icon. So, well, it says, and even if we aren't in the enviable position of being able to quit our job and travel the world, we can all live better lives by understanding what we want to experience and accomplish while we are on here on this planet. So, like as I told you, this guy changed from being an engineer to an architect, and then he changed into just traveling by the world. So the author mentions that sometimes we need to bow our aspirations. Oh, it was aspirations, not passions. So again, we need to go to the index, to the appendix. This is A. We have B about passion, so that was B, and letter C about aspirations. So here you can answer the questions, and later on you can just like have the answers. So we continue with number 2. We are here with the aspirations, letter C, exactly. So here also the girl, she is changing again, like stories. We have this with this icon, and here it is telling us about Sam. Oh yeah, Sam is a very introvert guy. He works for a bank. He doesn't like to speak with others in his office, but with his clients he established a very nice relationship because he cares about them. So one day, like the Sam's boss, he started to pushing him to have better results. And as always, like there is a competition everywhere. So there was a competition because like the best gets a bonus, and every month you have to be better than last time. So if you want to continue, like getting and getting and getting more bonuses. So at the end, this guy couldn't feed the numbers, and he didn't feel happy with it. Why? Because he really wanted to pay attention to details and to give enough time to know every customer. And like at the end, this guy left his job. He found another job where he was very happy. He had more time to give services to the customers. And the other company just realized that sometimes it is necessary to not rush, because you need to trust in somebody. And in order to trust in somebody, you need, like a kind of a connection. And for establish a connection, you need interaction, right? So, well, he says, like as a consequence, Sam wasn't happy in his job, so quit. Now he's happy, and he realized that he was happy in this kind of environment where he could give time to every customer to know them, and not just because you were in a rush. So that's why, like we have Sam here, and it says that how we can identify what's the best environment for us. We can go to appendix letter D. So it says that, like little by little, we are like learning about these pillars through experiences, but well, like we have more details with the questions and more. So here it's talking about personality, that sometimes for personality we have a lot of tests, that we can be this combination, or we can be blue, or we can be this princess, or we can do this, or this and this and that. So sometimes there are so many that is the same. So, well, you can know your personality because you did this test or that test or that test, but not really because you ask yourself the right questions. So here we have that, like another situation. This girl was in Honduras, and yeah, I think it is, like when she's in a hotel. Okay. So yeah, because it happens to similar things. So it was one time when the author was at the airport. It was, like with a group. They were later on in the hotel, and in the hotel they realized that the author's suitcase wasn't there, that they left it in the airport. So the author mentioned that even though if she knew that the suitcase was important, but everything was replaceable, and all the important things were with her, she reacted in a very dramatic way. She started to cry. She started, like to being worried, like a little girl. And she mentioned that she realized something, but she like reaffirmed it later on in another trip, when like they rented like a car, or they got a ride, and it was like a truck. So you have like the seats, and all the suitcases and stuff were just outside in the trunk. So suddenly it started to rain, and the author mentions that she saw how her suitcase were getting wet, and she got like super upset because of that. And now she had two experiences, and with that she realized that she felt irrationally upset when she was far from her suitcase, when she didn't have her stuff close to her. So, well, like she has an epiphany. She says that, okay, if I can control this, I can do something about it. So that's why she mentions that it is important to have knowledge, because knowledge is power. So, as I was telling you, knowledge is power. So, the author discovered that she feels anxious and she feels stressed whenever she is far from her stuff. So she is trying to tell us that sometimes it is better to have information in order to avoid or to control situations like this. So, sorry. So then we have again the icon, and then she's moving to Susan, and Susan, it says she is in real estate. She's working for, I think she's a water company. She's not about the water company. Well, let's just read a little bit. So it says, "Stone devastated." Okay, Susan was doing the best she could. Her demanding boss at the growing real estate company where she was working often required that she put in 70 hours weeks. Though she was constantly stressed, she threw everything she had into her hole, usually managing to keep her head above water. Or so she thought. One day, completely out of the blue, Susan was abruptly fired. So stunned, devastated, and angry, she blamed her superiors for his shocking turn of events. She hadn't given up on them. How could they give up on her? But once her anger died down, Susan was determined to seek a silver lining in his very dark clouds. So she had a sneaking suspicion that her behavior determinate no sorry, she had a sneaking suspicion that her behavior had played a role in her boss' decision. She just didn't know exactly how. As she carefully sifted through what she called the oh shit moments in her now ex job, Susan realized that her unawareness of her real time reactions, that is, the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that reveal our capabilities, had come back to bite her. So she says that sometimes, even though she was stressed, she reacted groundly, or she reacted in a bad manner. So as a consequence, even though if she was doing an excellent performance in her job, the reactions to some interactions weren't the right ones. So that's why, she paid the price. She paid a hefty price. So here is saying that, well, she didn't, like recognize how she was behaving. And then it says another upside that came from Susan's ordeal was she found a new job that was much more fulfilling and much less stressful. In her new position, she worked hard not just manage her stress, but to adapt her communication style to others rather than expect them to adapt to hers. This has been total game changer, and it's no wonder that it helped her become a bona fide unicorn. So, she changed her job, but at the same time she realized that she wasn't doing well in that kind of environments. So, however, it's important to point out that when we examine our reactions, we don't just uncover our weaknesses, sometimes we can discover strengths we never knew we have. So then we have another example, another story, and if I'm not mistaken, this is a guy that he was very shy, and he was living in a neighborhood, and suddenly, like it says, he was living in a very ugly neighborhood, and ironically it was uptown. That uptown, it is like, like lo mejor de la ciudad, and it was, like not a really good neighborhood. So this guy was just, like living there, and he was very shy, and he didn't want to participate so much in the neighborhood um, activities. But the one time, there was a company who wanted to like demolish a building and to start building some apartments or something like that. It has to be with that. And this guy was so against of it that he says like, okay, maybe I wasn't like trying to change the world, but I can do something for my neighborhood. So even though if he was shy and he was never like involved in this kind of speaking in public situations, he says like, well, I have to do it. I have to represent my neighborhood because we are against this construction, and we have to raise our voices, and etc etc. So he says that in exactly 10 days the association will have its own and only chance to stop the high rise at a city planning meeting. Paul had never given a presentation before or any kind whatsoever, let alone to a room crammed full of people looking to him as their leader. So here I am, he told me. I'm 25, I'm shy, I really didn't want to be president, and I'm nervous as heck. But he stood up and delivered his presentation as best as he could. When it was finally over, he wasn't really sure he'd done. It is until one of his neighbors who worked for Hughes Aircraft, excitedly approached him and practically offered him a job on the spot. Maybe he realized I'm not as inept at all this as I thought. So throughout this experience, she says that sometimes we are in some situations when, in order to feel um, when like you are pushed to do something that you always thought that you were bad at, but you turn out you are good at it. So for example, you all your life thought that you were bad at swimming because you were scared of water and you never tried, but one day you were pushed to learn, you enjoy it, and you said like, oh, I'm good at this, but you always thought the contrary. So, like the author is telling us that sometimes through some experiences we can really discover some of our strengths. Because this guy, he discovered that he was good at speaking in public, he was good at leading people. So, a strength was found. Then we have, like another icon, so we change. And the author is telling us, like that sometimes not sometimes the pillars of self-awareness is not just about knowing about yourself, but also, it says, so far each pillar of insight has been about us. But what we value, what we are passionate about, what we aspire to do, what environment we need, how we behave, how we respond to the world. But to be truly self-aware, we must also build on that to understand our impact. That is how our behavior affects others. So this is an example of, like some people that sometimes you are in the supermarket with your chart, and in the middle of the aisle there's a guy who is just looking at the shelves and he's not moving. Or sometimes you are in a rush in the middle of the street and the person in front of you stops because he is, like answering a message. Well, like they are not conscious about the impact that those details have on other people. Because imagine, like you have your coffee or you have something on, like on your hands, and suddenly this person stops out of nowhere, and well, you have an accident, like probably you split, or you spill, sorry, or something, an accident can happen. And that is the impact, the negative impact that the other person behaviors had on you. So that's why the author said that sometimes you need to be conscious about your environment, how you affect other people. So let's go. Eleanor. Not surprisingly, this final pillar is especially important for the leaders, as Eleanor Allen learned. Oh, yeah. So this is a girl. She was, this is the water. Yeah, this is the water infrastructure. Yeah, so this girl, she was, like working in a company where they needed to do something, to deliver some results. And she planned everything in detail. So someday she realized that they weren't, like delivering the materials and delivering their job on time. So in order to fix that, she just, like thought about sending emails to the right apartment, like, hey, what is happening? Hey, you have to do this. Hey, remember to do this. And she was giving like specific calendars about where they should deliver this, when everybody should finish, etc., etc. But it wasn't until one of the employees entered to her office one day that she was in the middle of a conversation with herself or something, and she's like, oh, we are just about to get fired. And this employee enters and says like, no, you are going to make us, to be fired, because nobody, nobody was reading her emails. Everybody was, we don't trust in that person because it wasn't very, very cold contact. So here the author is trying to tell us that because of this interaction, the girl changed her perspective, listened to the employee, and she changed the interaction with her employees, and just by that they grow confidence and trust in her, and finally they could deliver everything and even beyond, the goals. So at the end, she needed to know her environment and also how other people see her. And well, we have what is going on. You have to stop. You are driving us crazy with your emails. And this is, all the story that I just told you. Oh, the name of the employee was Evelio. So, we have here that in 6 months, everything changed. And it says, luckily, while increasing awareness of our impact requires commitment and practice, it is possible. And for a few questions to help you to do that, take a look at Appendix F, like at the end of the book. The key skill we must develop to read our impact is perspective taking. So, in order to understand how, the impact our actions have, is to see everything with different perspective. As an example, the author tells us that sometime when she was in the airport and her plane was a little bit delayed and everything, there was a lot of people, she already waited for too long. When she was about to get information, she got upset. Like her flight was canceled or was delayed, and the employees didn't have information. And she was about to start yelling at them when she just decided to put in practice the zoom in and zoom out. That she says that zoom out is to see the everything, from outside perspective, and to zoom in is to validate your feelings and everything that your reaction. However, because maybe you are upset, you zoom in, you're upset because you have been waiting, you're hungry, you don't have money, you are tired, you want to sleep, you are this. But you zoom out, well, you are not the only one who is suffering. There are other people who are suffering. The employees are dealing with the customers. You are an angry customer, so imagine that. So that the author is telling us that, like she was about to yell at the employee, and instead of doing that, she changed her mind because she saw the scenario from a different perspective. And in order to just yell, she just asked some questions to the employee, and she realized that the employee was also having a bad day. So imagine, yelling at the person that is already having a bad day. So instead of just making her or their day worse, she just opted for just being kind and be patient and respectful. And well, we have here that the guy says like, well, thank you so much for treating us like that, because sometimes people forget that this is just a job and we are people too. So it says, continue with the same but different scenario. From inside out to inside in, the importance of external self-awareness. So obviously it is important to know yourself, but it's more important to see how other people look at you or see you, because if there is no match between both, well, probably you are doing something wrong. So here again we are with Benjamin Franklin, and remember that Benjamin Franklin wrote a list with 13 values. So one, bad habit, we said, let's just find that part to read it. It says here, my friend kindly informed me that I was generally thought proud. that my pride showed itself frequently in conversation, that I was not content with being in the right when discussing any point, but was overbearing and rather insolent, of which he convinced me by mentioning several instances. So this guy was feeling so proud, and he would just like speaking about himself. And sometimes when he was wrong, he was like, no, 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 I'm like, don't let me be right. So he says like, okay, I need to change this, and I haven't realized this until my friend told me. So that's why the author said that sometimes it is also important to see how people see us. So if there is a match, we are doing something correct. If there is a mismatch, probably we can change it, and we can just like balance both sides. So it says, uh, as we learned earlier, one of the biggest myths of self awareness is that it's all about inward. That's it, inside from the inside out. But armed with only our own observations, even the most dedicated students of self awareness among us risk missing key pieces of the puzzle. Of course, like you just look at you, but you don't look the scenario. So, what we have here, the story cocktail. Oh yeah, like that's why they said. Oh, the author mentions that sometimes you have to pay attention. For example, imagine you are at the party, you met a person, and you are telling your stories to that person. So look at the details. Is this person really interested in your story? Or is the person looking any chance to look at their phones? Or probably maybe the person is trying to like change the topic, and you don't understand the indirect. So everything it's about like perspective, and to see if you are like paying attention and the reaction of other people, so you can also adapt to those kind of reactions. So here we have, what else do we have here? Well, she continues talking about like the delicate balance with the internal and external self-awareness. And it says, typically our own views can be especially helpful for pillars that aren't as visible to others: our values, passions, aspirations, and fit. For example, it is a successful accountant, outwardly appears to be fulfilling his job, but secretly dreams of a career as Broadway dancer. He's likely the sole possessor of that information. Yeah, of course, It says, okay, sometimes it's good that you know yourself, but at the same time, like it has to be a balance, because, like imagine, as it says, there is an accountant. He works well, he does everything correct, but he doesn't like his job. He wants to be a dancer, but he never has shared that information with anybody. So, well, like it is the only person who possesses that information. So the reverse is true for the pillars that are more visible to others, like our patterns, reactions, and impact. So for some people, it is easier to see some aspects of ourselves, and obviously from other side, it is easier for us to recognize our own um, details, our own information. So that's why, it says that we have the seven pillars, and both are for gaining experience inside and outside. So we have a lot of examples. Like she need a personality transplant, alarm clock event. So let me see. Oh, that is the word I was, like trying to remember earlier, guys. It says, when the winds of change rage, some build shelters, some while others build windmills. So windmill, it is molino de viento. It makes sense, That's why. I don't know why I couldn't remember the word earlier. So we have here that okay, we are talking about the seven pillars, and like inside, outside. But when does this happen? So the author is mentioning that there are two two types of self awareness. Sometimes it is because of some events, like you find yourself in an event where new rules or new things begin, so you have to adapt to the new routine, you have to change, even though if you don't want to. And some other changes occur because there's like an earthquake, like something happens, like something shakes your world that you have to do something. So as a the second type, like an earthquake, we have an example. It says, we read about Susan, a unicorn who achieved a new level of self-knowledge after being fired from her job. This is an example of the kind of event that, because of its because its significance and severity, shake us to our core. So earthquake doesn't mean like a natural disaster. It means like something that moves your world. Like in this case, she lost her job. So it says other examples may be the death of illness of a loved one, or a divorce, or probably the ending of a significant relationship, or any serious failure or setback. Because earthquake events are so life-shattering that they all but force us, sorry, they all but force us to confront the truth about ourselves. So what, like sometimes in your life you have to do something, yes or yes, because you break up that relationship. You start like looking inside you, probably thinking about the factors that like hurt the relationship, or maybe you discover something that you didn't like, and since then you change. So that will be like an earthquake moment. And well, finally we have that, oh, it says that, oh, there is, like not just two types, there is a third type of alarm. And this is something that she calls everyday insight, that I was telling you something, or I mentioned something earlier. That is when you are just doing your daily routine, your daily task, like washing dishes, and suddenly you have, like this enlightenment, you have an aha moment. So sometimes it could be that you don't are doing something extravagant, just daily routine, and you find something that maybe you don't like or you want to change. And well, that happens. So here we have oh, as an example about something that happens, like daily. The author gives us an example about two friends that they are living together, and someday one of the friends, like instead of putting away glasses in a way, she put them on the other way, so upside down, and the friend realizes that she got upset because of that. So that's why she said, like, okay, it is important to recognize what I like and what I don't like, and sometimes I have these aha moments in the most random situations, like just doing daily activities or insignificant activities. And oh well, like finally we end the chapter by saying that it says, now that you know the pillars upon which self-awareness is based, we can dive into specific strategies to strengthening it, and therefore improve our choices, our relationships, and our success. But before we do, we need to get a better understanding of the two biggest obstacles standing in our way. So we start knowing a little bit about obstacles in the third chapter, that it will be for next session. For the moment, that will be it, chapter number 1 and chapter number 2, and we have a lot of information. So remember that the author decides to give us a little bit of context and examples through some facts, through some stories, and at the same time, she is giving us a lot of technical meanings, I will say. And well, so far we have that it's important to know yourself from inside and outside, because when you see also the outside, you can recognize how people react to your behaviors, or how your behaviors affect them. Also, remember that we have, for helping us to recognize or to know more about ourselves inside and outside, we have the 7 pillars. What are the 7 pillars? We have the appendixes, so we will help us with them. So it will be the values, we have also the passions, we have the aspirations, we have our ideal environment, we have our strengths and weaknesses, and we have the impact on others. And I think this is not the one that we mentioned, so this is for another one. Yeah, that's for another one. So it finished just with, like, what's our impact on others. So those are the 7 pillars. And well, remember that you can do these exercises by yourself. Like, go to the appendixes, and there you will have some questions, and then you have more information about how you can get your own details, how to, you can know yourself a little bit more. So, as you may see, guys, that will be it for chapter number 1 or 2. So, it was a very, very long video. As you may see, it's a complex book because so many pages, so many vocabulary, but very interesting. It has so many interesting facts, so many interesting information that I hope you kept, or at least kept what you need, and start, like, applying into your life whatever it catches your attention. So for the moment, guys, that will be it. Thank you so much. I will see you next Thursday at 9 p.m. for our session. Meanwhile, continue having an excellent reading, and see you soon. Bye, guys.
We gather around and chat all day. New words to learn in every way. No fear of wrong, just give a try. We're flying high like birds in the sky. From A to Z we say hello. Each day we watch our language grow. Together we will break the ice. In talk English we find paradise. Right now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. With laughter, jokes and stories told. In conversation, hearts unfold. We share, we learn, we understand. Building bridges hand in hand. No grammar rules can hold us still. We're climbing higher up the hill. Every sentence, every phrase, in talk English, we like the blaze. In talk English, we like the blaze. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds.